You're going to find that multiplying and dividing integers is a lot easier than adding and subtracting integers. Notice that I said all you have to do is count the negative signs. Let's take a look. So, what you want to do is you want to count the negative signs in the expression. So, if we have a multiplication problem like negative 5 times 3, all you have to do is multiply 5 times 3, which is 15, and then count how many negative signs are in the expression. There's one negative, so your answer is negative. In this division problem, there is a negative 8 divided by 2. All you have to do is divide 8 by 2 by normal, which is 4, and then there's only one negative sign, and so your answer is going to be negative 4. One negative sign makes the answer negative. If we have two negative signs, then it's going to make the answer positive. So if I have negative 5 times negative 3, I multiply 5 times 3 like normal, which is 15, and because there are two negative signs, my answer is going to be positive 15. I have 8 divided by 2, which is 4, but because there are two negative signs, they basically cancel each other out and they make a positive 4. But what if I have three negative signs in my expression, like negative 5 times negative 3 times negative 1? All I have to do is multiply 5 times 3 times 1, which is 15, and then because there are three negatives, my answer is going to be negative. And then if you're dealing with all multiplication and division, you can do this. So if I have 3 times 4, that is 12, and then 12 divided by 2 is 6, there are three negatives, so my answer is going to be negative 6. You can only do this if it's all multiplication or division. You can't have any adding or subtracting in these expressions when you're counting the negative signs. Let's look at some problems. So if I have 15 divided by 5, I divide that like normal, which is 3, but then there's two negatives, so my answer is going to be a positive 3. 18 divided by 2 is 9, and then I count the negative signs. There's one negative, so my answer is negative 9. And then 72 divided by 9 is 8, and I just count that there's one negative sign in my expression, so my answer is negative 8. Let's look at these multiplication problems. What I wanted you to notice is that when there is a parentheses right next to the number, then that means multiply. So this is 15 times negative 3, and that is going to be a negative 45 because there's only one negative in your problem. If I multiply 15 times 2, that's going to be 30, and then because there are two negatives, your answer is going to be a positive 30. Here, you've got parentheses right next to each other with no symbol in between, so that means multiplication. So 5 times 2 is 10, and because there are two negatives, your answer is going to be a positive 10. And these numbers are all multiplying. Notice that the parentheses are right next to each other, and so that is 6 times 1 times 4, which is 24, and because there are three negatives, your answer is going to be a negative 24. Let's look at these problems because these are a little bit different. So when I see the negative 15 and it is right next to the parentheses, that means that that is multiplying. So I'm going to multiply 15 times 4, which ends up being 60. Because there are two negatives, that's a positive 60. And now that positive 60 is being divided by negative 2, so that ends up being negative 30. However, we can't do that with this here, saying, oh, there's three negatives, so my answer is going to be negative. What we actually have to look at is that this is an addition problem, and so we can no longer just count the negatives. Now I have to do negative 15 plus negative 3, which ends up being negative 18. And now I have negative 18 divided by negative 2, and that's two negatives, which makes it a positive 9. So in this problem, the moment you have any addition or subtraction, you cannot just count the negative signs. The only time you can count the negative signs is when there's all multiplication or division. One negative, your answer is negative. Two negatives, your answer is positive.